Joining us at the beach today is Metta. World Peace.
You don't need an introduction when you got your own app, and his app is called Metta, where you can send him personal messages and talk directly to him. Find it at the App Store. Now let's talk to him.
Metta, what can you tell us about growing up? Did you have 17 people in the house in Queensbridge when you were growing up?
Yeah, man, it was tough. I had a fire in my apartment. I was coming home from somewhere with my dad. When we get back, it was smoke everywhere, and then we had, I think it was a 3-bedroom apartment, and then we had nowhere to live for a couple days, and then they moved us into a 1-bedroom apartment, and then it was like 17 of us. It was fun though. We were real close.
And what can you tell us? What do you remember about that time?
That time was rough. At that time, I was 13 years old, so at that time, my dad and mom was splitting up. We had the fire. I was getting in a lot of trouble at that age, you know, and experimenting with all type of things in the streets. And it was a rough time, you know, trying to find yourself as a 13-year-old.
What does Ron Artest at his most rebellious, getting into trouble, look like as an early teen?
You know, I was never like rebellious, but I was always interested in different things. You know, I learned how to cook crack at the age of 13. So that was something I'm not proud of, obviously, but it was just something that was introduced to me at an early age. Got away from that. My brother continued with it, did 10 years in jail, you know, and a lot of my friends, I had one of my friends was an A student. He was a better student than me. He always get A's, but he chose to stay in the street. So he chose to, you know, to sell dope, and then later he was murdered. But I was like, he should have got a scholarship to college for education. But there's different things that I was exposed to, you know, that I'm grateful that I had people in my corner, you know, that had a great support system that always gave me good advice, you know, and told me, you know, stay in the books, stay in the basketball, you know, and don't stay in the streets.
Did you think to yourself while learning to cook crack, this is wrong, this is normal, this is just what some folks my age are doing? What were you thinking during that time?
At that time, it was normal. You know, you see dope fiends, they come up, you know, they buy the drugs. And at that time, you see the money transactions, and it's like, oh, wow, I can make $10 real quick. Oh, I can make $100 today, you know? And at that time, it's like, oh, wow, if I get that money, I can buy some sneakers. So it's kind of normal. But you also know the repercussions. Police is coming, people getting locked up. You know, a lot of my family members was beat by other dope dealers and different things like that, you know, with bats and different things like that. And it's like, okay, now as you grow up, if it wasn't for, you know, those experiences that I've seen, you know, maybe I would have made the wrong decisions, but I've seen a lot of the hardships that these people go through. So I'm like, you know what? I don't want no parts of that life.
What was the scariest situation you personally found yourself in?
The scariest situation was, you know, one day I was at my my cousin's house, you know, and Mobb Deep, you know, rap group, they used to live next door on the same floor. And so my cousin, you know, they was cutting up the crack and everything. Police started knocking on the door, you know, and then so I was about to flush the drugs in the toilet. And then, you know, my cousin was like, yo, don't flush the drugs, you know, because a lot of money. It was like a lot of money. I'm like, yo, we got to throw the drugs away. I throw it out the window. So that was scary because, you know, my cousin was actually trying to, you know, save the drugs. Hopefully the police leave. And I'm just trying not to get arrested. You know, I was about 13 years old at that time, you know, and but the police left. Gratefully they left. And it was a tough situation.
So you get to the league and you're not ready at all, right? You're not ready in terms, no shot, right? Like you were doing, you weren't mature.
Not ready, absolutely. Because, you know, I love basketball, I love to compete, but at the same time, a professional, I wasn't, you understand? I needed to learn how to be a professional, and I needed to learn about my life. You know, I didn't understand like who I was. So I'm multiple people at one time. I'm a good student, I'm a math major, I'm a hood dude, I'm all these different things, you know, and one person. Very confusing to me at that time. I actually had I had a breakdown in Chicago, you know, when I was on the way to a game, pulled over, started crying. It was just so many things in my head, you know, then later went on to the game, played the game.
Well, when you played that game after that breakdown, did anybody know about that but you?
They probably did. The Chicago Bulls was real helpful. You know, they was actually trying to get me psychiatrists. Now I see psychologists. The difference, obviously, is a psychiatrist, they can provide medicine. Psychologists, they more of talking to you type of situation. But in Chicago, they was trying to give me help, you know, because I was going through a lot at that time. So they was getting me diagnosed and everything. And then I later, I didn't really need a psychiatrist, but I did need a psychologist. and I just continued to see a psychologist throughout my career.
So what's happening in the locker room? You've said before that you were drinking Hennessy at halftime and that you actually went to the liquor store. Was it before the game or at halftime of the game? Like why isn't anyone saying anything to you like, hey, that we shouldn't be doing that here?
Well, I had a very immature time, one moment, very immature, very irresponsible, unprofessional, I decided to, walk up and, go to the liquor store. And I was just very stressed, and then after that, I was traded from the Bulls. The Bulls tried everything, man. It was a great situation. They really tried to keep me there, but I was very, very unstable when I was in Chicago. And then when I got to Indiana, I was trying to find myself, seeing psychologist Reggie Miller. He tried to help me so much, but at that time I was learning how to listen, but I wasn't there yet, so I never really listened to Reggie a lot. My biggest regret is the Pacers situation out of anything in my life. One of my biggest regrets is that Pacers situation. And then I would put my marriage up there with that because Jermaine O'Neal always reached out, a great teammate, great leader, and I never, ever, reached back out to Jermaine, Al Harrington. Like, these guys would go out and get lunch, and I would always stay in my room, I was not social. Now, I would come to practice, give 100% in the games, give 100%, but, I was never building that team chemistry. And we won 61 games one year, but one of my biggest regrets is not building, that friendship.
Well, what was happening there, though? Was it bipolar? I'm not even sure how much in control you were of any of this stuff. There were mental issues going on here, yes?
In Indiana, it was jealousy. It was jealousy of Jermaine O'Neal's contract, because I felt like I was a top-tier player. But I felt like the Pacers wasn't, they didn't treat me like that. Defensive player of the year, averaging a lot of points, leading the team and everything alongside other players. But it was all about me, you see what I'm saying? It was too much ego. Everything's about me. That was the problem, And then when I don't get what I want, I felt like I was entitled. Then I lash out in a lot of different ways, And then on top of that, not being a good partner, guilty, just so many different things going through my head, bringing that to practice. Bringing the stuff from practice at home, you understand? So when you get a balance on that stuff, and when you get a hold on that stuff, then your life is good, But at that time, I didn't have no control.
Did you really apply for a job at Circuit City while you played for the Bulls?
Yeah, absolutely. I did. I'm 19 years old. I was bored. I was partying a little bit too much. You get to the league, you get a little bit of money, you want to go out, not treating your body right. And I was trying to find ways to, stay grounded and trying to find ways to not do anything I shouldn't be doing. So one of the things I did was apply for a job at Circuit City. I got the job, 50% off discounts and things. It was fun.
That's what he
wanted.
Well,
that was the thing. Did you show up to the job? I always hear about you applying. I never hear about you working at Circuit City.
He wanted the discount.
I showed up, one day I showed up. I worked. I helped out some customers. It was fun.
And you put, was it Jerry Reinsdorf or Jerry Krause down as a reference?
Oh, we put Jerry Krause. Yeah, we put Jerry Krause. Me and my buddy put Jerry Krause as a reference. It was funny.
Thank you, sir. Always appreciate the candor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias, Metta.